Welcome to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing, founder of the Reiki Business Collective and creator of the Build Your Reiki Business program, sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business. Greetings, welcome, and thanks for tuning in to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing, and I'm honored to have you here. Thank you so very much. In this episode, we're talking about fear. Good old fear, our friend, and its importance in your Reiki business. You know, when we are considering starting a Reiki business, we can have a lot of fear. And if you are at this point where you are considering starting a Reiki business, you may be feeling some fear yourself. You may be thinking, gosh, what do I do? I'm afraid because I don't know how to start a business. I've got fear around just starting a business technically. Maybe you've got some fear around telling people that you want to start a business and sharing your dream with others. Maybe you have fear around talking about Reiki and you're thinking, gosh, I live in a small town. I am in a place where people don't really know a lot about Reiki. It's rural. I'm afraid to talk about Reiki. Maybe you are afraid to just get things started and rolling because it all feels so overwhelming and you're just afraid of all of the things that you've got to do. Maybe you're afraid that you don't, quote, have what it takes to start a Reiki business. If you are feeling any of these things, I want to say to you, welcome. Welcome to the beginning stages of Reiki business ownership. Welcome, because you indeed are right where you are meant to be. You are right where you need to be, and you are right where everyone else was when they started their Reiki business. So you indeed are not alone with the fear. It is normal and natural for us to have fear anytime we do something new. Anytime we do something new, we're going to have some fear. You know, I don't know about you, but the first time that I tried sushi, I had some fear. I was like, is this something that I should be eating? Is this safe to eat? Is this an okay thing to eat? Now, of course, you know, I grew up in a very all-American kind of place, grew up with very all-American kinds of foods. And so we didn't have nothing fancy like sushi where I came from. And so the very first time I remember that I was going to try sushi, I was afraid. I was nervous. I was like, this is raw. Is it safe to eat this? Safe to eat raw fish? Is this okay? So I had some fear, and it's natural and normal to have some fear when we have new and different experiences. Now, of course, you know, once we get into those new and different experiences, the fear decreases. So what that means is that now I'll eat sushi. As a matter of fact, I make sushi. And so it's not something that's quite so scary after all. And so that fear has gone away in terms of the sushi. But when I experienced that fear the first time that I went to try sushi, that indeed was a normal reaction. That was a normal experience because it was outside of my comfort zone. It was outside of my sphere of experience. It was something new and different. And if you are starting a Reiki business, probably it's the first time that you've ever started a Reiki business. Probably it's something that is new and different to you. And even if you've had a business in the past, it's still something new and different with a Reiki specific business. And so that means that the fear that you feel, the uncertainty, the nervousness, that's all normal. So I really want to encourage you to recognize that when you're starting your Reiki business and you feel that fear, that's a completely normal reaction. I think that sometimes we have this idea, and I hear this in the Reiki community, that, oh, if it's meant to be, you're not going to have any fear around it. It's going to be natural and normal, and it's going to flow easily, and you're not going to be afraid. You're just going to do it. But indeed, it is natural and normal to have fear. When I started my Reiki business, I was like, what the heck do I even do? I don't even know what I'm doing. Am I sure I want to do this? This is crazy. What are you thinking? You're going to start a Reiki business? What the heck? You don't know how to start a business. You don't know how to run a business. You don't know what you're doing. So I had a lot of questions, a lot of uncertainty and fear too. How do I talk about my business? How do I tell my family and friends? How do I just even move forward? And so know that you indeed are normal for those feelings. And I want to encourage you that if anyone ever says, well, you shouldn't be afraid, and if you're afraid, it's a sign that you shouldn't do it, it's not true. It's not true. It's natural and normal to be afraid when you are starting anything new, including a Reiki business. It's natural and normal to have challenges. As a matter of fact, expect challenges. They will indeed arise, no matter how well balanced your chakras are. And so it's normal and natural. And I want to encourage you that if someone tries to tell you, oh, don't be afraid, don't worry, it's going to be fine. Well, yeah, it's going to be fine, but it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to be nervous and have some fear about it. Because indeed, it is okay. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a bad Reiki business owner because you feel fear. Fear is normal in business ownership, including Reiki business. And as you move forward with your Reiki business, there's going to be fear. You're going to be afraid about, setting up your business formally. You're going to be afraid, fearful. You're going to be nervous about creating your business cards. Does it look right? Is it good? Are people going to like it? Do you even need business cards? Maybe not at all. You're going to be nervous and fearful and afraid. Oh no, am I going to get clients? What if no one wants to come for my services? What if people don't like the way that I offer Reiki? I'm so afraid of what's going to happen. What if I don't make any money? These are normal fears. And the thing is with fear in our business, actually, it is our friend, because fear shows us where we might have some growth points. Fear shows us where we might need to move forward. Fear is resistance. And anytime there's resistance, there's an opportunity for us to look below the surface and explore it. Resistance has meaning. And anytime we have resistance, we have the opportunity to really reflect upon and contemplate that resistance, why we are experiencing that resistance, why we are feeling the fear and what it ultimately means. Now listen, just because you feel fear doesn't mean that it's an opportunity for you to always push past the fear and do it anyway. There's a great book by Susan Jeffers called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. It's a very nice book, and it's a short book. You can read it very quickly and easily. And, yes, we can feel the fear and do it anyway, But if you're afraid of driving off a cliff and you're like, oh, feel it and do it anyway, no, don't drive off the cliff, please. So feel the fear and do it anyway. Doesn't mean that we should do dumb things like drive off of a cliff. That fear is there for a good reason. It's just an opportunity to reflect a little bit more deeply. Why am I afraid of driving off the cliff? What might be the result of driving off of this cliff? What might be the consequences of driving off of the cliff? How might my life be impacted by driving off of the cliff? And is this something that I really want to do? The answer may be no. And so fear doesn't mean that we should always push past it. But fear is there as an opportunity for us to reflect more deeply. Fear is our friend in that it's information, and it's calling us to dig a little deeper into this feeling. But when it comes to your Reiki business, oftentimes the fear is something that is calling us, not just to dig a little deeper, but to maybe very well push past. So like, for instance, talking about Reiki, telling others about our business, pushing forward and setting up that business formally with the state. All kinds of things that we can be afraid of, that we push past the fear and do it. And in Susan Jeffers' book, she talks about fear as a square, our comfort zone. It's our comfort zone is a square. And anytime we push up against that comfort zone, we're going to feel fear. And so anytime we're pushing up against and contemplating doing something outside of our comfort zone, whether it is eating sushi or setting up a workshop about Reiki, or maybe going to our first networking event, anytime we push up against that comfort zone and we consider stepping out of it, we're going to feel fear. And also, once we push past that and we do the thing, so we eat the sushi, we go to the networking event, we set up and run the workshop, we are expanding our comfort zone, and we are expanding the possibilities for ourselves, and we are decreasing our fear in that particular area. So once we do a workshop, we're going to have less fear the next time we do the workshop. We might still have some fear because it's still newer, but we're going to have less fear. We're going to have less fear the next time we go to the networking event, the next time that we have a Reiki session, the next time that we talk to a potential client. We're going to have less fear. But here's the thing with fear in our Reiki business. It never completely goes away. Fear shifts. It never completely goes away. So what that means is, for instance, in my Reiki business, maybe the very first time that I did a Facebook Live, we'll say, for instance, I might have felt some fear. As a matter of fact, I did. Always the biggest fear for me is the technology. I've had some real technological challenges with my Facebook Lives over the years. And so I'm always like, is this technology going to be okay? Is this going to be all right? And by the way, there are always technological issues, always, forever. So if you are having technological issues in your Reiki business, you are not alone, and they're not going to go away. You are never not going to have technology challenges. Just a fact. But let's say that, that's something that I'm no longer fearful of. I no longer have fear about doing a Facebook Live. Granted, I still always hope that the technology is going to be good. But the fear shifts. So now maybe I'm not so nervous about doing a Facebook Live. Maybe I have fear about some other business aspect. Maybe I have fear about, is my podcast going to get viewers or listeners? Is anybody going to tune in? Maybe that's a fear. And so the fear doesn't ever leave. It decreases as you go along. And more importantly, it shifts. And it just shifts to other things. Because as your comfort zone expands, you still have a comfort zone. And so now Facebook Lives are within my comfort zone. But maybe something else isn't. Something that I'm not as new at, like podcasting, for instance. And setting up all of the RSS feed and stuff. Like, what is up with all of that, by the way? Way more work than I expected it, I have to say. Expected it to be, I have to say. So, pushing out of the comfort zone is still going to have fear attached to it. And so always in your Reiki business, you're going to have some fear. And if anyone ever tells you that they have no fear in their Reiki business whatsoever, then my question is, are they really reflecting? Are they really open and honest with themselves? And are they really exploring their feelings and the nuances of their feelings? Because always there are reasons for us to be fearful or hesitant or uncertain in our Reiki business, because always there are new ways to grow and new things to learn and new territory in our Reiki business. And if you're not growing and expanding in your Reiki business, if you're not feeling fear, then you might not be growing and expanding in your Reiki business. And if you're not growing and expanding in your Reiki business, then yeah, you probably won't feel any kind of fear. But that fear is a really good opportunity to recognize where you might have some growth points and to recognize that it is an opportunity for growth and expansion. And so fear is actually a friend in our Reiki business. And so I encourage us to embrace fear. Embrace it as a natural, normal part of the Reiki business experience. And to embrace it as feedback for your Reiki business experience. And above all, to know that it is normal. And so if you are considering starting a Reiki business and you're like, I just feel so much fear about it, I'm afraid to start my Reiki business, congratulations, number one, for having the thoughts of wanting to start a Reiki business and exploring that. Congratulations, number two, for recognizing that you have the fear. And I encourage you to do some exploration about really where is that fear coming from, what is at the heart of it, and what steps can you take to help you feel less fearful. Because indeed, very much decreasing fear is a step-by-step process. And it happens on an incremental level with the smallest of steps. And so whatever those small steps are, start taking them. And that might be the very small step of just telling your best friend that, hey, I'm thinking about starting a Reiki business. That might be doing something as simple as tuning in to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast and just getting knowledge and information and encouragement. That might be something as simple as just exploring what business registration in your state is like and just Googling it to see. You don't have to do anything. Just Google it and see. That's action too. And that's a step. And when we take those small steps, we feel less and less fear with the more steps that we take. And all of the small steps add up to bigger steps. And so I encourage you to just start taking those small steps to know that your fear is normal, and to, so much of the talk around business is, you've got to say your positive self-affirmations, and you've got to forget the fear. And if you feel fear, then you don't really want it. You don't want it bad enough. And that's not true. That is not true, because fear is normal and natural, and it's a normal and natural part of our Reiki business journey. So you are normal if you are feeling fear around starting the Reiki business. And if you are an established Reiki business owner, you are normal if you feel fear in certain aspects of your Reiki business. The fear doesn't go away. It decreases, sure, and it shifts. And the fear is an opportunity for us to dig deeper, to explore, and to reflect. And so in our own Reiki business, let's befriend the fear. Let's make friends with fear. And let's not fear fear. Let's recognize it for what it is. Information, a great opportunity for reflection, and the acknowledgement and honoring that it's always a part of our Reiki business journey. And fear is therefore not to be feared. It is to be befriended. Well, I'm sending you lots of blessings and best wishes for all of your fears, for exploring them, for reflecting upon them, for using them as information and feedback, and for moving forward with small steps outside of your comfort zone, and pushing against that fear that is ever changing, ever morphing, and evolving on our Reiki business journey. Sending lots of blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business. Thanks for tuning in to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and send to a friend. Learn more about the Build Your Reiki Business program at standingstoneshealing.com/build. Sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business.